Hello everyone, my name is Saurav Kumar and today we are in part number 2 of AWS training where we are gonna talk about cloud computing. So let's begin. First of all, I would like to let you know that what are the things we are going to cover in this particular video. So we will be talking about cloud computing introduction. We will be talking about cloud services and cloud delivery models. So these are the basic things which we are going to discuss in this today video. Let's start with it. First of all, this term cloud computing, when it comes in our mind, what does it mean? What exactly do you understand by this term cloud computing? So we are going to talk about it. First thing here, I have tried to bring it in the presentation that services and solution whichever is being delivered and consumed in real time over the internet are cloud services. Any service which you get over the internet to use, for example, if you are using Google Drive, if you are using let's say Gmail, if you are using maybe OneDrive from Microsoft, so this kind of services, if you are even using maybe any call conferencing software or application like Zoom, so these all are a cloud service, cloud computing service. So any service or solution which is being delivered and consumed in real time over the internet are cloud service. Second point is cloud computing is a delivery model of computing services over internet, and there are very many number of delivery models which we will be discussing in today's video. Next point is it enable real-time development, deployment and delivery of services and solution. What does it mean of real-time development? That whatever you do the changes or whatever somebody is doing change, it immediately get reflected for other user there, because everything is going to work in a real-time environment. So all the deployment, delivery of services, development, everything is working in a real time here. And here let's try to understand what is the cloud concepts is. So generally cloud concept is working on two things. One is cloud services and one is delivery model. What is cloud services and what is cloud delivery models are, we are going to discuss later on. First, let's try to have a look on it, that how exactly cloud is going to provide the service to the consumer or to the customer. So generally for a customer like me or you or maybe any company, those who are looking for cloud service, they generally access those services, they generally get those services through any of the maybe browser running on their machine, or maybe they can have any specific kind of application running on the computer. So by using any web browser or by using any application, we as a customer get the services. So we are connected to the internet, and from the internet obviously our service provider is also connected. Whoever our cloud service provider are, they are also connected to the internet. So at the service provider side, what is happening there, that they have a web application server running first of all in the front, which is giving us the services in our web browser. For example, if you want to get a service, let's assume that maybe you want to store something on Google Drive. So what generally we do, we go to our browser and we type drive.google.com. So that is also a kind of site which opens there, right? So that site is being offered by this web server or application server used by the service provider. But this computer is just offering you a web service, but behind it obviously there is a database server where all the data are being stored. So every service provider, they have a web application server, they have database server, plus there are so many things behind it, like they may also have a DR. DR is here, what actually DR is, disaster recovery. So they have some specific site, or you can say many number of servers who will be acting as a DR, disaster recovery. So in case if original computer or original database is having any issue, they have a backup of it. They have something in the backside which can be used to recover the data, or maybe you can call it also like it will be giving you a fault tolerance. So the thing behind the logic behind this all, that whatever customer is getting service, it should not be interrupted at any condition. And generally this disaster recovery, they make it in this situation that maybe their original database or the main server, if it is located at one region, then the DR will be obviously at the different region, so that whatever maybe disaster comes, either it is a earthquake or maybe there is a fire, or maybe there is a flood, or maybe there is any kind of other disaster comes, so it will not be affecting at the same time two different regions. Maybe one is in a, let's say that in a India, and another one, or maybe one is somewhere in a East America, another one is in West America. So this is how they design in the back side of the data center, that they keep the disaster recovery site at a different location than the original location. Other thing is, before I continue, there are some terms which you all supposed to be knowing about it, that generally whatever whenever we talk about any AWS service provider, or maybe we talk about any cloud service provider, either it is from Microsoft, either it is from Google, either it is from any other company, all of them, they use a term called as a DR drill. So what it means, that it is a kind of process. What do they do? That they forcefully, or you can say like it is like a planned failover. They, for checking their disaster recovery sites, what do? That they make a planning that okay, let's on maybe this weekend or someday I'm going to manually, there is no disaster, everything is normal, but let's shut down this computer, let's turn off this main computer, and let's see either our DR server, DR database, DR data center, is it going to respond quickly or not, are we going to have any kind of problem in our service or not. So that planned failover is called as a process called as a DR drill. And those DR drill is having so many other terms, like for example, if I talk about a term which is not related to this course, but let me give you here, which will be giving you a brief information about it. There is a term called as a RACI. We call it RACI. So this RACI is a term. Generally this term is well explained in the course of ITIL 3 or ITIL version 4 if you are doing ITIL course, that is a management course. What does it mean of this RACI is, R is talking about responsibility, A is talking about the accountable, C is talking about the consulted, and I is talking about informed. So whenever a DR drill process happening in any service provider, whenever they do DR drill process, they follow it. They follow this terms RACI matrix. So what is meaning of RACI matrix? That they make a kind of a steps that okay, who is going to be for doing this DR drill, who is going to be the responsible person, that is R. Then he will be working under whose guidance. Somebody has to be there who will be accountable, on whom you can somebody has to be there who will be answerable, or if anything goes up and down, who is going to be responsible for that. So who is doing it, that is R, responsible. Who is having accountable for it, like maybe your supervisor. So supervisor will be always accountable. And who is going to be responsible? Generally system admin. So system admin does the DR drill process, and supervisor is going to be accountable for that process. Then who is going to be consultant? Consulted means somebody who is going to give a suggestion or make a plan that what time will be suitable to do this task, and when we should do that. This kind of task will be done by the consultant. Maybe like you can take example of project lead. For example, if you have a project lead, maybe you're working in a project, so your project lead is going to act like a guy who is consulted. And then the let me write it, project lead here. And then the I means, as I told you, it is informed person only. For example, if you are doing any DR drill process, the top management should be informed. Like for example, maybe your IT manager, if it is a big company, and then there can be IT director also. So those people are just informed people. Whatever the communication is happening between a responsible person to an accountable person, or maybe to the consulted, this all communication has to be informed to the guy like IT manager or IT director. So generally it's like, if I talk you in a layman language, it is somebody whenever maybe a responsible guy is taking a permission, whenever accountable person is granting a permission, whenever a consultant is giving any suggestion or idea, these all things will be sent through the email, and there in each email the informed person will be there sitting in a CC, means carbon copy will be always sent to the informed person, so that he will be always aware that okay, this particular date there is a DR process is going to happen, and he will he can give even a suggestion, or he can at least be aware that who is responsible and who is accountable for it. So this was something in the back side which was not part of today training, but I have just added it here so that you will have a broad idea that how exactly the cloud service provider are making sure that they provide a service which is much more reliable, and there will be a proper fault tolerance, and customer will be having their service almost like 98%, 99% up. Next point comes under this, that what are the cloud service models are. What are the different service models? Service model means what kind of service you are being offered, what exactly service you are getting from the service provider, and what maybe your responsibility is, and what will be the responsibility of your service provider. That is what service model means. So here term I have used called as a NIST. It's a National Institute of Standards and Technology. This is a body in USA who defines some of the cloud service model. So NIST is the one who is responsible to defining anything related to cloud service model. In next upcoming video, I will be also talking about the cloud service, characteristics. So that characteristics are also being, designed and offered by NIST. So NIST is a body. It is a National Institute of Standards and Technology who has defined that these are some of the following cloud service models will be, which will be offered by any of the service provider. So some examples I am writing here. One example is IaaS, the full name is Infrastructure as a Service. Second is we have PaaS, Platform as a Service. Then we have SaaS, Software as a Service. Then we have DaaS, Data as a Service. Then we have CaaS, Communication as a Service. And we also have BPaaS, Business Process as a Service. So these are some of the service models are. What is the meaning of service model? If I repeat again, it is it means that what kind of service is being offered by the service provider to the customer. So let me brief this all of them one by one. So let's start with the first one, which is infrastructure as a service. What is infrastructure as a service is? So here we have some information about it. The first point is, as you know, infrastructure as a service, meaning that it is refers to online service that abstract the user from the detail of infrastructure like physical computing resource, location, data partitioning, scaling, security, backup. These kind of things will be offered in an infrastructure as a service. So generally, if I give you explanation on it, meaning that as we have discussed in the last video, that generally nowadays we are getting cloud service after virtualization. So your service provider is always having a hardware, and that hardware is also running a hypervisor on it, right? And on the top of hypervisor, you are running a virtual machine. So your service provider is running a virtual machine. What is that virtual machine is? It is again a hardware, but it is virtualized hardware. It has a processor, it has a RAM, it has a storage. So those are the virtualized resource, virtualized hardware. There is a hardware, but it is virtualized hardware. You have a processor in it, but it is virtualized. Original processor is here on the physical machine. So virtualized resources, whatever you have, but as a physical resource, that will be offered to you from the cloud service provider when you get a infrastructure as a service. When you are looking for an infrastructure as a service, they only offer you hardware resources. They only offer you hardware things like a computing resource. Computing means, as we discussed in the last video, computing is a term, compute is a term, which means CPU plus RAM. So CPU RAM, how much it will be and how it is going to function, this will be given to you by the service provider. The location where this virtual machine is going to be will be offered. Data partitionings will be there. A scaling also, maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow you want to increase number of RAM or you want to reduce the number of RAM, that will be taken care by the service provider. Security of it, physical security it means, and the backup, for example, in case if this virtual machine has any issue, how the another virtual machine will perform, or maybe it will be working as a backup computer. So those things will be taken care by the service provider. That is what the meaning of infrastructure as a service is. Let's discuss more. So generally IaaS is dependent on the hypervisor, and on the top of hypervisor we are having the virtual machine which is going to be acting as a guest on a physical host. So what is hypervisor is, there are many number of hypervisors are like VMware, ESXi, Microsoft is offering Hyper-V, Citrix is offering Xen. There is a KVM also running from the Linux side. So these are some of the hypervisors are which makes these things ready. Here as I discussed, this is your hardware, for example. So on the top of hardware you have a hypervisor, on the top of hypervisor you have a virtual machine. Let me go to somewhere else to explain in a better way what exactly hypervisor is. So let me just move to this next slide where I have explained what are the types of hypervisor. Hypervisor means an application or a software on which we are running virtual machine. That is what hypervisor is. So there are two type of hypervisor. One is called as a type 1, another one is called as a type 2. So type 1 hypervisor we also call it as a OS hypervisor, where type 2 we call it as a application hypervisor. This one hypervisor, type 1 hypervisor, is also called as a bare metal hypervisor. So that I can also write it bare metal. That's again a you can say category of hypervisor. So let me first explain type 2 hypervisor and then it will be easy to understand type 1. So what is type 2 hypervisor is? It is like this. Maybe you have a physical hardware. Maybe you have a laptop, you have a server computer. You have bought just hardware. Hardware means it has a processor in it, it has RAM in it, it has a storage in it, all those kind of things. Then on the top of that, generally what we do, for example, if you have a laptop, so you bought a laptop as a hardware, then on the top of that, what do we install? We install the operating system. That operating system can be any. It can be Windows, it can be Linux, it can be Mac. Then on the top of that operating system, because that operating system doesn't give you option to make a virtual machine. So what we do is we use any type of hypervisor on the top of it. This hypervisor which is working on the top of operating system is called as a type 2 hypervisor. Whenever you have a hypervisor which works on the top of operating system, meaning that to use this hypervisor, first requirement is you need to have the operating system already running on your machine. Without operating system, this hypervisor will not work. So what are the example of this hypervisor if I try to write? So this type of hypervisor are, maybe you can say if you have used VMware Workstation, if you have used VMware Fusion, VMware Player. These are some of the example of this type 2 hypervisor. If you talk about from Oracle company, you have VirtualBox. So that those are the example of this hypervisor, type 2 hypervisor. And the top of that, we create the virtual machine. Even if you have maybe Windows 10 in your laptop and you maybe enable Hyper-V, which is available as a feature, or if you are having a server operating system, it is available as a role. So that Hyper-V is type 2 hypervisor, which is working on the top of operating system, and then on the top of that we are making some virtual machine in it. But what is the problem here is, we are also running a operating system which consumes our resource. You may have seen that when you have a laptop, when you just install the operating system, it will start consuming some processor, some RAM, of course. So that operating system is, maybe your plan is to run only the virtual machine on this machine. So why do you need this operating system? why not to get some hypervisor which directly run on hardware, so you just replace or remove this operating system from there, which is occupying your space, also you're consuming the resources. So that's why in data center we use type 1 hypervisor. So what is the difference here is, you see here, type 1 hypervisor can be directly installed on the hardware. You don't need any operating system. Here we are having operating system, here there is no need of operating system. So you have a hardware device, you have a laptop, you have a server computer. On the top of that, you directly install the hypervisor. You don't need any operating system on it. So when you run this hypervisor, you will be now able to make virtual machine. You can make virtual machine as many as you want, and as many as can be run properly on the hardware which you have in the system. So that's the difference in type 1 and type 2 hypervisor. So in type 1 hypervisor, if I take example of this one, what are the example of it? So we have from VMware company, it is ESXi. From Microsoft company, it is Hyper-V. Please don't mess with this Hyper-V here because this Hyper-V runs as a role and feature of your operating system. But this Hyper-V is available as a bare metal Hyper-V, which is available as a separate DVD or CD, which you directly install on your hardware as an operating system, and then you will be able to make virtual machine on the top of it. Then from Citrix company we have Jane. So these are some of the hypervisor. Jane we have ESXi from the VMware company. We have Hyper-V from the Microsoft company. So these are some of the example of bare metal hypervisor, meaning that type 1 hypervisor. So generally when we are talking about cloud computing, when we talk about data center, they use type 1 hypervisor, not type 2 hypervisor. Type 2 hypervisor we use it in our laptop, maybe just to do some practice or just to do some experiment with virtual machine. If you want to do some practical on virtual machine, then you use type 2 hypervisor and you make some virtual machine and you do your practical. But in data center, always type 1 hypervisor will be used. So now let me go back to the previous slide where we have been talking about infrastructure as a service. So here when you are getting infrastructure as a service from the cloud service provider, they offer you only up to the virtual machine. Whatever virtual machine they have made, whatever type of hypervisor they are using, doesn't matter for you. They create a virtual machine according to your requirement and they offer that virtual machine console to you. Thereafter, you will be responsible for all other things. So in IaaS, the cloud user, who is user, not the service provider, the user will be maintaining the operating system and the application software. So maybe you are a IT person like me, you who are doing this course, we all are a IT person, IMS person. So IMS person means we are a infrastructure management service guy. So we know how to install operating system, we know how to manage hardware devices. So for us, we generally prefer to get infrastructure as a service, because once we get a virtual machine, we are easily able to handle that, what operating system I should run on it, what services I want to enable or disable on it. Those we will do by our side. So service provider will be only responsible to manage and maintain that virtual machine in running condition. Thereafter, what operating system I am running, am I running Windows, am I running Linux, is it license 1, if it is license, I have to update it, I have to get the license for it. So those tasks will be done by the client. Service provider is just offering you a virtual machine, that's it, the hardware. So that type of service is called as a infrastructure as a service. Now second type we have is as a platform as a service. So those people who maybe are not good on IMS side, those who don't know, or maybe they don't want to care that how to install operating system, how to update operating system, how to get the license of operating system, or some platform type of software, they generally prefer to go for platform as a service. What is platform as a service is? So here you see, in platform as a service, it offers environment to application developer, which include the operating system and maybe also programming languages, database, etc. Let's take example like this. For example, if there is a company who is already having some database developer, so maybe they are looking for just a machine, virtual machine, And on the top of that virtual machine, they also want to have operating system already running. Then on the top of that, they also want any of the database maybe running, because they have already database engineers or database developer, but they don't want to take care about these things, that how the operating system will be installed, how the SQL will be installed. So here we have the hardware. Here we have hardware can be virtual machine I'm talking about right now. So on the top of that, what will be the operating system running, and on the top of that any specific kind of application also. Maybe if I take example from Microsoft, maybe SQL is running on it. So this all things will be offered by the service provider, and as a customer he will be getting everything. So if anything goes wrong in a hardware, who will be responsible? Service provider. If any update is required for operating system, licensing part of operating system, who will be taking care of? Service provider. Then the installation of SQL and backend support for it will be managed by the service provider. But on the top of that, the application which is going to be used by the customer, they will be running, so they will be responsible to manage that application. So generally this platform as a service is being used by the developers, those who are developer in a company, those who are developing maybe any apps or something, or maybe those who are running, maybe they are having a project of maintaining database for any organization, maybe government organization or something. They also look for service like a platform as a service. Another point is, as I mentioned earlier, that developer who can develop, run or test their software, they look for platform as a service. They don't want to care that what operating system is running behind and what database engine is running. They just want to have a machine where they can easily test their application, whatever they are developing, they can just test on that machine. Next point is, PaaS provider are like Google App Engine. This is one example of PaaS provider. So if you are making any app, if you are developing any app which you want to maybe publish on Google Play Store, or maybe you want to make only for your own company, then you can get a service like Google App Engine. There you can test your application. You can get Windows Azure, Force.com, AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So these are some of the PaaS providers, are those who provide platform as a service to the customer. Next type we have is a software as a service. As per its name, it's very clear that it is going to offer you up to the software part. So you will be just using your resources, meaning example like CRM software, you may have heard about it. So maybe you are running a business, you don't take care about that what operating system is running, what kind of service is required and all. You just get a software like CRM where you are doing maybe handling or managing your all users and everything. So that kind of service is being offered by the service provider, is known as software as a service. So let's have a look on it. SaaS is referred as on-demand software. What software demand you have, what kind of a specific maybe application type you are looking for, that you can demand from the service provider. And obviously this will be including the infrastructure. They will be offering you infrastructure, means the machine will be also offered by the service provider. Then platform will be also managed by them, whatever operating system they are giving, plus the software will be also given by the service provider. So here this eliminates the need to install and run the application on cloud, user on cloud. It leads to simplified maintenance and support. So for you, you don't have to take care that how the application will be installed there and any maintenance of it. You are just using the application. I can take an example also, like maybe for example you are, let's talk about Office 365. If you have Office 365, you are not caring about that how to install the Office on that machine, which operating system is running on that machine, how much powerful that machine is it having 4 GB RAM or 5 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM. What you are getting is, you just open your browser, you go to your Office 365, you get a Word there, Excel there, and you just use it. That's it. So that kind of service which is being offered as a complete software package is called as a software as a service. So in the software as a service, the pricing model is going to be working on the monthly or yearly basis, as per the user basis, use basis also, you can say like that, how much you are using. And maybe in a specific month you have used more, then you will be charged more. In a specific month you have used less, you will be charged less. So this pricing model of SaaS is going to be depending on the user basis also, and it can be monthly, it can be earlier. So that was all about the SaaS, software as a service. Now I'm moving to the some example that who provides software as a service. So we have Google app. You have whatever Google app you use in your mobile phone, those are what? Software as a service. You don't care that how this application is running, who has installed, when to do update and all. You are not taking care of anything, what kind of virtual machine is running there by the service provider, how much RAM processor they have, nothing. You just get the app on your device, or maybe you are accessing it in your browser, that application, and you are just using it, you are just consuming it. So some examples are Google app, Salesforce, as the way I told you. Let me clarify here also, the first software as a service was offered by the salesforce.com only, and the product name is CRM, which is right now even in the lead condition. This is one of the most used software as a service nowadays. And some others are like Cisco WebEx, Citrix GoToMeeting. These all are software as a service. So whatever upcoming name which I am going to tell you, either I talk about maybe DAS or I talk about BPAS, those all are just some other category, but they all somehow falls under the category of software as a service itself. So now let me move to the next type. Here we have data as a service. Again, as per its name, this service is offering a customer to store the data. So here it is, DAS provide on-demand data to the user regardless of geographic or organizational separation of provider and consumer. So generally what happen, many number of companies are who are looking to have some storage or maybe some place where they can keep their data as a backup or as an archive. So basically DAS is providing the same. It is giving a benefits when we talk about a benefit of DAS, it is giving a improved data quality, single point for update, fast and easy access, and cost effectiveness. Let's take example, for example, let's take example of a bank. So in bank what happened, obviously there are millions or billions of data are. There are billions of accounts holder are, and their information are stored there. So what bank can even do that, I'm just taking example, but generally bank don't use this trick, but I'm taking example that bank maybe think that okay, whatever user account I have which is maybe 10-year old, maybe somebody has opened account 10 years before but they are no longer using it, or maybe there is no much transaction in this account or something. So whatever KYC they have done, those information they want to keep it somewhere as an archive. Archive means they don't want to remove the data, but they want to keep it somewhere as a storage, so that whenever they need it, then only they can retrieve it back from there. So that kind of a storage, they go for data as a service. They look for a service provider who can offer them data as a service, so that they will be keeping all these old data on that service provider computer. So basically if I take example of who are offering data as a service, so we have Google, we have Microsoft Azure. These are some of the provider who provide the data as a service. Basic use, what I personally also use data as a service to keep my archive file of my company. Whatever archive files of my company are, I generally use to keep them as a backup on the my cloud service provider computers. So I'm getting a service that is known as a data as a service. What I'm keeping there is, I'm just keeping my data there as a archive, as a backup there. Next category we have as a communication as a service, and right now it is very most common type of service being offered in the condition when we have this pandemic going on. So in this situation, there are very many companies there are very many service providers who is offering communication as a service. So here what it is, It is an outsourced enterprise communication solutions which uses maybe voice over IP or for instant messaging, video conferencing, like that. So there are very many number of vendor nowadays who are offering this kind of services, like you can have a voice over IP call, you can have instant messaging, you can do video call conferencing. So CAS, meaning that communication as a service vendor, is responsible for all the hardware and the software management, which is going to offer the guaranteed quality of service. Like Cisco has its own hardware device made for VoIP. They have its a specific kind of hardware designed for voice over IP. Then there are many other companies also, there are many other vendors also who design and have such kind of hardware and software. So if I talk about pricing model, it can be again same like software as a service. It is also having pay as you go, meaning that the more you use the service, the more you have to pay. The less you use your service, the less you have to pay for that month. So it is on the demand basis, and the approach eliminates the large capital investment on devices and maintenance for a small to medium business. For example, if you are running an institute, if you are running a small business, then if you want to do video call conferencing with your all employee, but you want to have a proper security need, you want to have a standard communication media, so then you will be looking for a service, and your cloud service provider will tell you that go for a communication as a service, where I am going to provide you the hardware and software. You will be using it to do your communication within your organization. So some of the examples are like Zoom, which is nowadays very popular. Then we have from Cisco side, it is Webex. Others are like GoToMeeting. Then we also have many there are many FCC free call conference are there. So these are some example of communication as a service. If I talk about some of the communication as a service which is being offered by one of the Indian company like Say Namaste. So these are some of the apps, or you can say like a service which is being offered by the service provider, and it is a category comes under the communication as a service. Then the next category we have, that is business process as a service. So what it is? Business process as a service is a form for BPO, generally business process outsourcing, where the employs that employs a cloud computing service model, and the aim of this traditional BPO is to reduce the labor cost. Similarly, BPAS reduces also labor count through increasing the automation, thereby cutting cost in the process. There will be automatically so many works will be done automatically, and that's how it is going to reduce the cost of the labor, or you can say skilled manpower. Next point about VPAS is there are many number of company nowadays like Wipro, TCS, Capgemini, Cognizant. These are the company who generally take a project of maybe any other company, or maybe some government project. Like if I take example of in India, there is a project of Aadhaar card. Everybody must have the Aadhaar card. So this is a government project, but this project is being handled by TCS here. Similarly, if I take example of some African country, they uses national ID. So this national ID is a government project, but it is being still handled by some of the private company like TCS there also. So this company they in India, Capgemini is also handling this process of Aadhaar card. So what is happening that this company, they need very many number of server which with the high resources, so that they can provide the service of Aadhaar card, they can provide a service of national ID. So in that case, this company, this TCS, Capgemini, Wipro, Cognizant, this company look for those server on the rent as a service. So it will be looking for a service from the cloud service provider, and that service they are going to get as a business process as a service. So this is one of the good example of business process as a service, is that they get a business process as a service from the service provider. They use those machines to run their own project for anybody else. Then the last we have, which I was not having name in the list of the service type or service model offered by NIST, but here I want to keep it. That is called as a XaaS. Here the X can be known as either anything, or either you can call it also as a everything. So X means either anything or everything. It can be depending on customer requirement. So XaaS refers to an increasing number of services that are delivered, because nowadays there are so many different type of services are being offered. We are putting all of those other categories, other services in a one category, that is called as a XaaS, anything as a service. So vendors like Google, Microsoft, HP, Amazon, these all are going to be offering XaaS. So what is the meaning of XaaS? That maybe any specific company need a special kind of service for their organization. So they may talk to the service provider, and according to the customer requirement, whatever the customer service requirement is, cloud service provider can offer them that service. Like example are maybe some company is looking for blockchain. Somebody is looking for email as a service, blockchain as a service. So they can talk to the service provider, and service provider can offer them such kind of service. So this type of service model will be called as a XaaS, anything as a service. Whatever customer needs, the service provider is offering them the service. That's why it is anything as a service. So that was all the type of service model. Now I'm going to talk about cloud deployment model. That was the service model, what service being offered by the cloud service provider. But now I'm going to talk about deployment model. Deployment means how the data center is being deployed. Is it going to work for everybody? Is it going to work for the company itself? And how it is going to work? So the deployment models are, there are main three deployment models are private, public and hybrid. But we also have one more deployment model nowadays, which is most common also, that is called as a community cloud. So these are the four cloud deployments are. If I want to discuss all of them one by one, so let's start with what is private cloud is. Private cloud means, here you see the services are delivered from a business data center to internal user, meaning that, for example, I am running a company called as a ABC, and I have so many branch offices. Maybe I have some branch offices in India, some of them are in Africa, some of them are somewhere else. So rather than keeping everywhere my servers and databases and all, what I can do that if I have my own company, I can make my own data center at one location, and this data center will be offering the services to my each branch offices. So all my server, database and everything, my skilled manpower will be working in this data center, but the resources which we have here will be used by my different branch offices. So in this scenario, this deployment model, what it will be called as a private cloud, because I have a data center, I am offering a service of cloud, but I am offering for myself, so it is called as a private cloud. So all big company, they generally have their own private cloud to keep their server to keep their database and all. So internal user of the company may or may not be billed for the services through IT chargeback, because the service provider is also the same company and the consumer is also the same company. So it is depending on the policy of that company. They may do the billing to every centers, every branch offices, or maybe it can be free of cost also, because it's all a part of the same company. So this type of cloud deployment model is known as private cloud, where the cloud service provider is the same as the consumer is. Next category we have is a public cloud. So as per its name, public cloud, meaning that this cloud will be offered to anybody in the whole world. It is a public cloud, anybody can use it. So here you see, in public cloud model, a third party cloud service provider deliver the cloud services over the internet, and public cloud service are sold on demand, typically by the minute or hour, or through the long term commitment are available for many services. So customer only pay for the CPU cycle, storage, bandwidth they consume. So right now, like for example, we are learning, we are in the course of AWS training. So AWS is what kind of cloud it is? It is a public cloud. Me, you, our company, anybody can have, anybody can get the service of cloud from the AWS. So it is an example of public cloud. So Amazon is having its own data center, but that data center is being used by anybody in the world. Microsoft is having its data center and it is being used by anybody in the world. So Microsoft is having Azure as a public cloud, Amazon is having AWS, Google is also having its own public cloud. So this type of cloud deployment where you have a data center, maybe if I take example of Amazon, so Amazon is having a data center where they have thousands of or billions of maybe server running there, which is offering so many services, and that services can be used by any individual or any company in the world. So this type of deployment model is called as a public cloud. Next point about the public cloud is, if I take example of it, the service provider. So we have Amazon, which provide the cloud, public cloud, and the full name of that public cloud is Amazon Web Service, AWS, which we are learning in this course. From Microsoft we have Azure. Even IBM and Google, they are also providing the public cloud. Next category we have is hybrid cloud. So hybrid cloud is nothing else. If you have understood well what is public cloud and what is private cloud is, that means you have already understood hybrid also, because it is a combination of both. For example, if a company is having a data center here, in this data center, let's say that there is a maybe 1000 number of instances running. Instance means maybe a server or maybe any node. So out of that 1000, maybe some part of that, maybe let's say that 200 nodes are being used by the company itself, the one who is having the honor of data center, and rest remaining maybe some instances 800, 600, 500 is being offered as a public. So this type of deployment model where some part are being used by the own company, the one who is hosting that cloud, and some part is being used by the or it is offered to the public also, will be called as a hybrid cloud. So here it is, a hybrid cloud is a combination of public cloud as well as an on-premises private cloud with orchestration and automation. Orchestration is also something like providing the run book where you have set up something as automation task between the two. So companies can run mission critical workload and sensitive application on the private cloud and use the public cloud to handle workload burst or spikes in demand. So very many number of companies are also there who want to have both type of service. For example, if I want to have my own company like abc.com, so I will be making my own data center here. I will be making my own data center here where I will keep some servers, I will keep some services running in my data center, but maybe the backup of it or maybe DR of it, I will keep it on the any of the public cloud, maybe on the AWS. So what kind of service I'm using, what kind of deployment model I'm using, this is called as a hybrid model, because I have my private cloud also which is offering my services to my all company, plus I have my backup or DR or maybe some services I am running even on the public cloud. So this combination of public plus private will be called as a hybrid cloud here. Then we have community cloud. So community cloud is something like where the cloud is especially designed for some special kind of community, like all bank companies, all insurance company, all manufacturing company of maybe let's say that all company who are manufacturing something, some special kind of product. So those community can have its own type of cloud, that is called as a community cloud. So a community cloud in cloud computing is a collaboration effort in which infrastructure is shared between several organizations. There can be many number of organizations, but from a specific community. They should be in a same community, like all banking company, all insurance company, with the common concerns. Whether the managed internally or maybe it can be managed by even third party or hosted internally or externally. It can be maybe within the company as a private also. It can be even the public also. So maybe let's say that there is a public cloud, but it is being used by some specific community. So that type of deployment model we will be calling as a community cloud. So here we have discussed about two things, especially in this particular part 2, where we have discussed about the service model and then we have discussed about the community model. So here is also some explanation on it, that public cloud can give you elasticity, You have a complete freedom on it. Whenever maybe I'm a public cloud user, so I have the elasticity. I can anytime go up and down according to my requirement. I can increase the number of nodes, I can increase the amount of RAM, I can increase the speed of processor or storage amount anytime as per my requirement. It is giving me utility pricing as much you use, and it gives you the leverage expertise. That's the beauty of public cloud. When we talk about a private cloud, maybe if I have my own personal cloud, what you are getting, you have the total control, meaning that you can say that it is giving you better security. You don't have to trust anybody else to keep your data there. You have your own data store, you have your own data center where your data is stored, so it is even, you can say, like more secure. It is giving you the full control on it. Anytime whatever you want you can do it. If you are using public cloud, you don't have the full control on it. Here you have the regulation and flexibility. You are flexible to do anything whatever you want in your data center. Then when we talk about the community cloud, it meets the shared concern. As I told you that all maybe a same type of community like banker or insurance company, they can have one type of concern, that maybe they are giving priority of security. They don't want to disclose, like let's say that all bank in India, if they want to keep their data, they have a special condition that their data will be never be stored in any data center which is out of the country. The data center must be in the same country where the bank is. That's some conditions used by banks. So they use community cloud because their concern is something similar. They have the same type of concern. Then we have hybrid cloud also, where the combination is, you see, any company is having its own private cloud also, where he is running some services, plus this private cloud may be keeping the backup on public, or maybe some services are running on public too. So that combination will be called as a hybrid cloud. So that was all in this particular part number 2, where we have finished about 2 things. Now it's time to have some question answer. So after learning these things, I would like to have some question here for you. The first question goes that select the option that is not a hypervisor. So out of these 4, which one is not an example of hypervisor? You can answer it. Second question is BPaaS is a stand for what? We have discussed about it is a deployment model. It is a service model. Then name 4 cloud deployment model. What are the 4 deployment model we have discussed in this particular training? You should name them all. Then the next question is blockchain as a service. If I take example of blockchain as a service, it is an example of which type of service model? Is it comes under infrastructure as a service? Is it come under platform as a service? Or is it come under software as a service? Or does it come under any type of other service model? So kindly answer all these 4 questions. And at the note of this, I am going to finish this particular session now. I hope this video was informative enough for all of you, and I would like to thank you for watching.